They told us by the chorus, they said the leads would flow. $10,000 later, still nowhere left to go. Another shiny promise, another magic trick, but every marketing expert is selling the same old shtick. They keep saying, spend more money, trust the system, wait your turn. But we're watching businesses burn. We're not buying what they're selling. We're done playing the game. No more fake gurus yelling while the results stay the same. No more burning at money, no more chasing the fame. We're building real businesses, we're changing the game. They push another funnel, another webinar, another guru telling you you're only one step far. But the truth is way simpler than what they want to say. Real growth comes from showing up and serving people every day. No more smoke, no more lies, no more seven-figure secrets selling dreams in disguise. If you want real growth, if you want real change, then stop playing small and break the damn game. We're not buying what they're selling. We're done playing their game. No more fake gurus yelling while the results stay the same. No more burning at money, no more chasing the fame. We're building real businesses, we're changing the game. We're not buying what they're selling. We're done playing their game. No more fake gurus yelling while the results stay the same. No more burning at money, no more chasing the fame. We're building real business.
Hey, no, I'm trying this out. I don't even see that there's anybody on here. So hard to tell. This is just my first attempt to doing a live stream. Actually, it says there's a couple of people watching. Okay. I just wanted to do a quick live stream and kind of talk about and tell my story. If you're here, please leave a comment over in the chat. Would love to see you guys here. Let me see if I can do this. Leave a comment in the chat. So I just kind of wanted to go over my origin story and how I got into business. I know there's probably not going to be a lot of people watching this, but I got into entrepreneurship kind of on accident, actually. One of the things that basically kind of got to me was, I had moved from California to Utah at the time, and in the process of moving, just didn't have the space or ability to bring a lot of the furniture with us, and so we left like our dining table and things like that. And as we were living in our house, I was like, I really could use a dining table. And so I built one for us. I went and got a bunch of pallet wood, looked up how to do it, and got a bunch of free pallets, took them apart, and made a pretty nice table. Really enjoyed it, actually. It was a lot of fun. It was a cool project, and it was a cool looking table, particularly because there were parts of it that I did not make completely smooth. I had just made it semi-rough, and so it took the stain a little bit differently, and I thought that was really cool. to see how that worked. And so I ended up making this table. It worked great. We used it for months. Might even been, I don't even think it was a year, but it was probably several months before I was finally able to go back to California, go to the storage unit, pick up our actual furniture and bring it. And you don't need two dining tables. And so I was like, well, we have a really nice one I don't want to get rid of. And so I'll sell this pallet table. And so I started selling it, put it out on Facebook Marketplace, and ended up selling it to a gal who's actually an Olympic speed skater. She's pretty cool. Cool to get to know her. And so I sold this table and thought it would be really cool to um, just kind of work on some stuff. And it was really fun to sell it to her. And then a couple weeks later, she hit me up and was like, "Hey, would you be able to make a bench? Not for both sides, but just for one. Would you be able to make a bench that would go with this that would also have the same pallet wood, same style?" I was like, "Man, yeah, I think I can do that. I can figure that out." So I kind of looked it up, figured it out, and made her a bench and sold it to her as well. And then probably another couple weeks went by, and I was working at this time. I had a full time job and everything. I just liked being crafty, and so she hit me up again and goes, "Hey, can you build like a hallway table? Like, one of those long, skinny tables that fits in there." She goes, "It doesn't have to look the same, doesn't have to match the same stain and everything, but I just want it out of pallet wood. And I'd like if you could also incorporate some of the elements of like the beams into it." I was like, "I can figure that out." So, and I realized this, the more I've thought about this story and the more I've kind of told the story a couple of times, I've realized that the same spirit that got me into making tables a long time ago, which started my entrepreneurship journey, is actually the same thing that is getting me to do them today. Not to do them today, to do marketing today. And some of the stuff I've been doing in marketing, some of the experimentation I've been doing lately with AI, with bots, with automations, is really all trying to do it for myself first. And it's stuff that I'm like, I would like that, I would need that, and and that's something I would be interested in. And that's basically how I've developed products over time. Um, and I've always thought that was interesting is that a lot of the time when people develop products, develop processes, develop services, it can often be out of a need that they have themselves that the market currently doesn't serve, or maybe they just don't have a way to get it. Some services are really expensive. That's kind of one of my things with AI and stuff is that it's cheaper than it is to hire an employee. It's more reliable. There's just certain things. It's like, man, if you can figure out how to do this systematically and just have a system run the process, it's so much easier. But anyways, back to the table. So I sold the table. I sold this lady a bench. I sold this lady a hallway table. I was like, there could probably be a business in this. There could be a little side business. So I started going on YouTube and watching some people making pallet furniture and some different things. And I did some work on my own to put out some different designs. Just kind of wanted to test and see what works. Everything from like a toilet paper roll holder to like coat shelves, tables, different things like that. Just experimenting and seeing what worked. And I got some clients. I got some people, and it was kind of a fun side hustle while I was working. Um, and then I really caught on to this wave of farmhouse tables. Those are the tables that had the big X in them, the main center beam, and then the legs had the big X. And they were typically the way they had them painted. The wood was stained and then treated, and then the legs and stuff were usually painted either a white or a black. And so I was like, man, those seem to be really popular right now. I figured out how to make them, and I was like, I'm gonna put those out on Facebook Marketplace. And I didn't know what I was doing. And this is kind of the whole point of this story is most people when they get into being entrepreneurship, when they get into working and trying to build a business, you really don't know what you're doing for the most part. Even if you know your product really well, like you're still trying to figure things out. And I was definitely in that boat. I did very little research on how much it was going to cost me to actually build the table, how much time it was going to take, how much effort. And so I didn't charge nearly enough. I actually charged like $400 a table. It was so low. And the problem with it being so low was everybody's like, oh, this is a great deal. I'm going to go for this. And I ended up taking on a ton of orders. I actually had to quit my job because I had so many orders. I want to say I did $10,000 worth of orders in a month. And at the time I was working at a job that was making me 2.5, 3 grand. And I was like, bye. See, like, sorry, this other thing is taken off and this thing's gone great. There's a couple things that as a business owner now looking back, I'm like, oh, I should have known. I should have done some research and figured out that um, it was seasonal. I miraculously and unknowingly tied this to when everybody was getting their taxes and tax season and getting money coming in. So they were willing to spend $300-400 on these tables. And I had so many orders. I was backlogged. I was working 18-hour days. And it got ugly. It got to be a real problem because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a good system. I didn't have the pricing right at all for what I was doing and was doing it way too cheap. And to be honest, was basically losing money on every single table I was producing. And the way I'd done it at the time was like, hey, I'll take a 50% deposit up front that buys the materials, and then the 50% at the end pays me for my time, I thought. And, as I went on and as I started to build, I learned, oh, well, there's certain techniques I have to do to make sure these are really good quality. And that actually takes more time. But because people had already, paid their deposit and stuff, I couldn't increase they'd already been bid out for that project. So I was like, well, I've got to do the good work because I don't want refunds, but I can't charge more for the work. And like, it turned into honestly a bit of a disaster where, clients started getting frustrated, delays, timelines weren't being met because things were taking longer and longer and longer. And it was brutal. I mean, I worked a ton at my house in my own garage as a shop for a while. Then the city actually shut down my garage space due to some sawdust and stuff on the driveways. Apparently there's some wastewater regulations or something. I didn't know. I had no idea. I'm like, I'm just trying to make a living and I'm working in my garage. And, every once in a while I was like, well, let me go work outside and go do some cutting outside because it was easier to do. But apparently their wastewater system is something where you can't have like sawdust and stuff going into it. So basically got shut down by the city that was like, you can't do this anymore. So I went and got an actual shop, went and actually spent some time there. So just trying to make all that work. And so I went to another shop, and that was harder because then I was spending 18-hour days away from home. But I was still doing it. I was working every single day. I was working late into the night. And usually I would do that as I'd go work overnight, trying to like not be in the way of the other people that were at this shop. This place is called Make Salt Lake. It's downtown, kind of by the, I think it's the Galleria Mall, like right by the train tracks and stuff off like 200 South, I think. And they have a membership where you can go work there, and they've got wood shop, metal shop, 3D printers, laser cutters. It's an amazing place. Honestly, I want to give them a plug and a shout out. They allowed me to do a lot of things that I just couldn't do at home, and had access to tools and equipment I didn't have at home. And so it was really great, but it was such a lot of work. I mean, there was one night I tracked over 10,000 steps walking from, I had this big table set up, and on top of that table was all of these big slabs of basically 2x4s that I was using to make these tables that had all been glued up into about 1 foot wide sections, because that was about what you could get through the planer. You could actually get more, but it was, for glue ups and size and stuff, I was like, it was just easier to do those segments. So I'd had them all glued up, had them put together, and had probably 20, well, it'd be 21 because there was 3 per table. So there's probably 21 of these things stacked. And basically what I would do is I would go over to the planer machine. And if you know anything about a planer, you put a piece of wood through it, and it goes through, and all these blades go through and just like shave off a little piece. And you're shaving off like 1/8 of an inch at the time at the most. Usually it's a 16th and 1/8, like very, very little. But what you do, and especially what I did, is I had basically 2 stacks. And the first stack would be the one that was going through the machine. So I would pick it up, carry it the 10 feet over to the machine, set the board in, let the whole thing go through, and then pick it up, go back to the table and set it down and go, okay, this one's done. These ones still need to be done, and work my way through those until it got up. And then I would go the other way where I'm like, these ones now need to be done again. This one needs to be This is where they're done when they're done. And was literally just carrying it over, putting it on the machine, running it through the machine, picking it up, putting it back, and doing that over and over and over. And I did it for 8 hours. And those pieces of wood were heavy. They were 8 feet long. They were a foot wide. This was not an easy task at all. And so I was running these things through, and I got 10,000 steps carrying this big honking slabs of wood, 10,000 steps in one night for 8 hours, going back and forth, 10 feet at a time, carrying wood. It was so insane. It was so much going on, and I was so tired. And in the midst of this, you get clients who are unhappy because of delivery delays and production and stuff. And I would literally put out videos and put out messages and emails and texts being like, I'm here in the shop, I'm working, I'm doing everything I can. I'm sorry there's delays. Like, I'm just behind. I'm trying to do new techniques to make it better for you guys. Like, and it got ugly. There's a couple of people from actually their family was from California, and their family decided to get involved and started messaging people pretending to be me, starting to try to get like my clients riled up against me. And like, it was really petty and really, really kind of crazy. And they got them so riled up that at one point we actually had like threats, like legitimate threats made against us publicly, on Facebook. And I was able to get screenshots of it. But there was a guy who was like, we're going to come over, we're going to break into your house, we're going to, just take all your stuff. We're like, it was bad clientele. Which is something else I'll say. As a business owner, a lesson learned here is when you have a cheap product, you end up dealing with people who don't have a lot of money to spend, who still expect the world for their little bit of money that they spent. And they're unfortunately pretty nasty to work with. Some of the best people I ever had to work with was when I had somebody spend $1,000 on a table. They came in and I was like, well, what do you want? How do you want this work? And they were just like, we want it to be how you recommend. You tell us, you're the expert. You put these together, you've built these. What do you recommend? What would look good in this space? Here's pictures of our house. They were a pleasure to work with. So I had to learn there that raising your prices actually means you get a better customer and better quality. I think it's funny. People complain a lot about like Disneyland. Like, oh, Disney's constantly raising its prices. And while, yes, it sucks, it'd be nice to go. There's part of me that's like, good. I'm glad they raised their prices. I'm glad that they are keeping the costs up because it keeps some of the less desirable attendees out. And that's not meant to be mean. It's just the facts of when you attract certain people and your prices are low. I mean, good example of this would be go look at the difference between Disneyland and Six Flags Magic Mountain right now. I lived in Santa Clarita for a while, and I went to Magic Mountain a couple of times. The rides are great. I love the rides. The rides are amazing. But because Magic Mountain has gone so cheap on their tickets, they have ended up attracting a much lower quality of clientele, and the park is not clean as it normally would be. It's not kept up. It just doesn't feel like a good place to be. I went there as a kid, and it was a wildly different experience going back as an adult. Just because they're not doing that. There's something to be said for actually pricing out certain markets, and that's just a part of it. I mean, anyway, so we had these threats, we had these problems, we had all these things going on, and I was just doing everything I possibly could. And I still remember this day because this was a transformative day for me. It was the last day I ever built a table. I built 2 tables, and I was getting ready to go drop them off, and I was going to be able to use the money that was being paid, the final amounts due, to buy more materials, go to the next project. Like, I was just rolling it forward because I was losing money on every single table and wasn't really making anything. I was literally just rolling things forward, which was also a hint that I had a very bad business model at the time. And so I dropped off a table for one of the customers, and it was kind of late when I dropped it off, and I was just eager to get home. It was going to be an hour drive home. I was exhausted. And he's like, okay, I'll Venmo you the rest. I was like, okay, great. I should have hung out and made sure he Venmo'd me because he didn't. And then the next day, I was out again waiting for a customer. The customer came, looked at the table, and if anybody knows anything about tables being glued up, particularly like they're still fragile in certain dimensions and certain directions. And so this guy had this table, and I don't know why. I still don't know why he did this, but I had it propped up on a couple little things that made it very easy to basically break if it was in, because it's not built for that type of a strength. Um, there's a It was basically up on two sawhorses, which means if you put any pressure on it, you're putting it on a very small area. When we actually built the tables had all this structure built in once assembled to make them strong. And while I was out grabbing his benches, he went into the shop and like broke the table and then goes, "Oh, I'm not paying for it," and left. So I had two clients that I was depending on, um, and basically just screw me over and didn't pay me. At that moment, it was getting late. I knew I had to go home. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no money. I had $5 in my bank account, and I had enough gas to get home. Maybe I was within like 5 miles of the gas. It was I was very nervous, very very. I didn't even know how I was going to do this, and um, how do you even face your wife? This is my ex-wife now, but how do you face your wife? How do you go home and tell your family that you're literally down to nothing and you've blood, sweat, and tears pushed. Um, and I kind of sat there and I thought about it and I was like, I've got a choice here. This is a crossroads. I mean, I'm shutting down the business. I have to. I have nothing. But what do I do now? And I thought about it for a while and I kind of realized I was like, there's two options for me. One, I could try to go get a job. That's going to take a little bit of time. I can try to figure this out. I can, go try to make something work. Or I need to find another way to stay in the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I'd come to love it. I came and found it was great. And I was like, okay, since this is what I love and want to do, I got to figure out another way to do this. And prior to this, um, I bought a social media marketing program from Ty Lopez. I don't know if you guys know him. He was really famous in the early 2010s, 2014, somewhere around there, for selling courses and things like that. He's since kind of fallen by the wayside, but I think, and he's gone more into actual investing and stuff and less teaching courses. But I'd bought a course from him that was I'm trying to think of the word. Oh, it was a marketing course, and it was set up your own marketing agency. And when I'd bought it, it had been like 3 years before, and I'd gone through the whole training. But as I was looking around, everybody and their uncle was starting a marketing agency, and you'll see even today it's coming back as a fad. And I have my own feelings about that. I don't think that's good for the industry. That some of these people are promoting this, and because I get it, they're like, oh, well, if you charge $1,000 a month and you get 8 clients, you're making $8 grand a month. You're making $100,000 a year, and you're independent. And I bought into that. That's why I bought it in the first place. I was like, oh, that sounds good. And as I went through, I was like, you know what? Everybody's doing this. It seems kind of scammy. It seems kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to scam people. I'm just, I don't want to do this. So I had all the knowledge, had all the stuff from the program, and just had been sitting on it. And I was like, you know what? It's been a few years. My other business is tanking. I got to do something. So I was like, well, let me try this. So I ended up making a bunch of cold calls, doing a bunch of work, and actually got a couple clients, paid the bills. One of the other things I did to kind of get through was I did drive for Amazon as one of the Amazon delivery drivers. Drove for Grubhub for a little bit just to keep cash flowing in. Um, and I'll say the end of the business, the wood shop business, was uglier than that. It also turned into kind of a court thing with the Department of Consumer Protection, which is a thing here in Utah. And I remember going into court, and the judge's like, "Hey, these people have asked for refunds. You haven't been able to provide them." And I was just like, "Look, Your Honor, here's the situation," and basically told him the story I told you guys. I'm like, I just ran a business badly. I didn't understand pricing. I didn't understand price of materials. I didn't know how to keep track of my time. I ended up, making better and better tables as time went on because I learned better techniques, but they took longer or they required special equipment and things like that. And when I didn't up my prices. And so I was literally just losing money. And I'm like, I have zero malice towards any of these people. It's not that I don't want to provide them a refund. I just don't have this. And at the time, that info hadn't been provided to the attorney for the department that had been working on the case and things. So he actually stopped the judge. He's like, Judge, I haven't heard any of this. I'd actually like to, we'll just call the case off and I want to talk to him and see if we can work out a plan. And we did. And at the time, we'd had so many orders that, and I put together a list and he basically was like, okay, you've got, you can reasonably refund one person a month because, half of that's $200, like $200 a month. And, you'll just do one a month. And so I did. And I actually did it. It took me 2 years to pay off everybody. It took 2 years to refund. And I did it. I ultimately refunded every single person because I never wanted that to be the thing with me was like, I wasn't there to screw over anybody. I made mistakes. I was not experienced at running a business at the time. I was actually pretty young and just didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to make money, trying to support my family and seemed like a good opportunity. And I just had not put the time into understanding business, marketing, sales, all the things that I now know that I now look back on that experience and go, well, yeah, no wonder it failed. Like, and there's parts of me that's like, I'd love to go back and try it again, but I also know that that's a rough industry and, I love what I do. But once I got into marketing, once I got into this stuff, I actually found that a culmination of a lot of my experiences I'd had in life, working as a data analyst, working in graphic arts departments for screen printers, and just generally like looking at human nature and people and data and numbers, actually turned out to be that I was pretty good at marketing and pretty good at what I do. And so I was like, you know what? I really like this. I really like what we do. I like doing marketing and I haven't looked back. It's been, 14, 15 years now, I think, since I've done that. And I absolutely love it. I love doing marketing. I love being an entrepreneur. I love being a business owner. I love working from home. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way from the clients I worked with, from the mistakes I've made, from a lot of different things that I just, they all started from that origin point, from that point of having that moment. I heard a quote the other day that said there are a few key moments in your life that decide the direction of your life. And I liked that because it was actually from the movie Lioness, and they were making a threat on the person's life. It was like, this is one of those moments, like trying to be like, you got to decide if you're going to live or die. But when I thought about it, I was like, that's really all that was as an entrepreneur was, am I going to give up and go back into corporate world, go back to working for somebody else, their time schedule, their pay rates, their demands, all that stuff? Or am I going to try to find a way to keep the freedom I had made? And while it was hard won and it was ugly, there was freedom there that had been made. And that for me was a moment where I was like, you know what? I've got to try to keep being free. I've got to do it. I've got to find a way. And I did. And I did find a way. And I loved it. And man, it's been a fun journey. And I appreciate anybody who's stayed on this live stream or who listened to it. I know this is my first one. It's rough. It's going to be bad. I am committed to actually trying to do these. Shout out to Dan Martell, who recently posted out a video talking about how to, how to grow your business, how to do things. And one of the things he recommended was go live for 30 days straight. And so that's going to be one of my commitments here. I'm actually going to go live twice a day. This first one is going to be mostly stuff I've learned in marketing, stuff I'm seeing, different things like that. These are very straightforward live streams, kind of trying to be in the same realm in a sense, or the same feel as like an Andy Frisella, somebody who's just calling it like they see it. Talks about marketing, talks about mistakes that have been made, talks about, the different platforms, what it actually means, what's BS and what isn't. And then our afternoon live streams are where we're actually going to build a business live. We're going to start from the very basics and just work on building a business. And so I think that one will be really fun too. Because I get to dust off all my marketing skills, all my sales skills, all that fun stuff, and actually build something for myself. Most of the time, as a marketer, you end up building things for other people's companies, their processes, their companies, their products, their services, and you get paid for it, and it's great. But you don't really build anything for yourself. And so I was like, this could be kind of a fun journey, a fun opportunity, is to attempt to build something for myself and see how it goes, see where it goes, um, and just kind of play with that and see what happens. So I think that'll be kind of fun. Anyways, thank you again to anybody who actually jumped on. I wasn't expecting anybody to be on here. So, yeah, appreciate everybody, and we will see you all next time.
They told us by the chorus, they said the leads would flow. $10,000 later, still nowhere left to go. Another shiny promise, another magic trick, but every marketing expert is selling the same old shtick. They keep saying spend more money, trust the system, wait your turn, but we're watching businesses burn. We're not buying what they're selling, we're done playing the game. No more fake gurus yelling while the results stay the same. No more burning at money, no more chasing the fame. We're building real businesses, we're changing the game. They push another funnel, another webinar, another guru telling you you're only one step far. But the truth is way simpler than what they want to say. Real growth comes from showing up and serving people every day.